Welcome to the Artist Advisory Hotline, the podcast for artists who want valuable guidance and honest answers on how to grow their careers and develop their new project from leading art world experts and artists. Here's your host and founder of the Artist Advisory, Marina Press Granger. Tune in as she gets you the answers you deserve.
Hello, artists. Thank you so much for joining me today. It is so exciting to have you guys here, to be back, and to deliver such an awesome interview. I mean, I'm patting myself on the back because guess what I have in store for you today? I have Jenna Ferrey here. She is the owner of Trotter Sholer Gallery here in the Lower East Side of New York City, and it's such a great space. They actually have a really cool exhibition coming up, so you should mark your calendars. It opens on November 3rd, and it is a solo show for Adam Heimbach. So you can find out a little bit more about that on their Instagram and on their website, which are linked below in the show notes, or you can just go to www.trotterandsholer.com. Trotter is spelled with two T's, and Sholer is spelled Sholer. Or you can go on their Instagram, which is at Trotter and Sholer, and find out a little bit more about the gallery and also see some really cool interviews that they've been doing with some notable individuals, with some luminaries. So it's always fun to see that on their Instagram. So anyway, speaking of interviews, we have Jenna here today. She's going to tell us a little bit about what it was like to open up a gallery a little bit over 2 years ago in New York City. And that was like during the pandemic. And I know we're all like super tired of hearing about the pandemic, but it's an interesting thing to hear about and to listen to. So she's going to tell us a little bit about that. And she's going to tell us about how she finds artists, right? Like, how does she find the artists that she works with? So she's going to lift the veil a little bit on that. On top of that, she is going to give you guys some really valuable advice on how you can start to build relationships with galleries. And if you're already working with a gallery, how to approach that relationship and how to kind of frame that. So I think these are such valuable things to know, and there's going to be so many amazing takeaways. So let's dive in, and thank you again for being here. Hello, we are here with Jenna Ferrey, PhD, owner of Trotter Sholer Gallery in New York City. Hi, Jenna. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Marina. Thanks for having me.
It's truly a pleasure. I have been to your gallery so many times, and you always put on such beautiful exhibitions. And I just wanted to invite you here to tell our listeners, who are mostly artists, a little bit about your gallery and lift the veil a little on what it's like to run a gallery, what it's like to deal with, or what it's like to work with artists and collectors, and what it's like to deal with art. Right? On that level. So I'm curious to know, but where do we start? I wanted to ask you a little bit about what it was like to open a gallery in New York City. Your gallery is now a little bit over 2 years old, right? And we're in 2022. So what was it like to open a gallery in 2020? And was there anything particularly challenging during that time?
So opening a gallery in New York City is kind of a dream at any time. So it was really, really exciting to be able to open up a space that I had some creative control over and responsibility for ultimately, and where I could do work that I was really excited about and proud of. Opening it during 2020 was sort of a double-edged sword, I guess. For me, definitely 2020, there were a lot of challenges. We had to navigate things like social distancing, masks. How do you have an opening? How do you invite collectors into a space when we're all sort of quarantining or isolating? And so those were some challenges that we had to navigate. And we did some sort of creative things, because by that time we knew that outside we were pretty safe. So we would host our openings where we'd have a bar set up or drinks outside right in front of the gallery, and then limit the number of people who actually went inside, and they weren't allowed to bring in drinks and had to be masked up. So we did sort of strange things that normally we wouldn't have to do. But then the flip side of that was, because it was 2020, there were certain opportunities that were less expensive. So I was able to negotiate some of the things that would have normally made it a bit prohibitively expensive to start my own gallery. So it really, in some ways, helped me get my feet on the ground at the tricky stage of opening any new business.
Yeah. And just for our listeners who may not have visited your gallery yet, I want to let you know that Jenna's gallery has this. I mean, first of all, it's on an amazing block in the Lower East Side. It's literally flanked by some of the best galleries out there, and you're keeping up with them. So that's really good.
Yeah, we're so lucky to have those galleries beside us. And it's nice when people come to visit, they can stop in and see art at 4 different galleries within one block.
Yeah. And so I'm just going to mention those galleries just so you kind of know the sort of world, the niche that Jenna's kind of in, or Trotter and Sholer is in. And so that's Rachel Effner, Spencer Brownstone, and Morgan Presents, right?
Yes, that's right.
And so it's a beautiful space, and it has floor to ceiling glass windows and doors. So the gallery that Jenna has actually has 3 walls, it feels like, because the 4th wall is completely broken in the sense that you can see right into the gallery, and it's a very inviting and immersive experience. So that's so smart of you to literally think outside the box. I guess no pun intended, but I am just like on a roll today with the puns. So think outside the box and have this opening reception outside, so to speak, so people can peer in and go in limited number of, like, in a group with a limited number of people. That is so smart. You really, like, every time I talk to you, I'm like, oh, she's so smart.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it was fun. And it was at the stage in the pandemic where people were really happy to have somewhere to go, but still anxious and needed to feel safe.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you opened your gallery not too long ago, and you've already achieved so many amazing things. For example, you've participated at Future Fair, yes?
Yes, we participated at Future Fair. We partnered with a gallery in Bed-Stuy called Swivel Gallery, and we did a joint booth at Future Fair in 2021, and it was really exciting, and we ended up getting photos of our booth in the New York Times. So it was really great.
Yeah, it's super cool. I also got to say, I didn't ask you about this ahead of time, so but I'm so curious to know a little bit more about your kind of your gallery celebrity status, so to speak, because you have such amazing little tidbit interviews with very well-known people on your gallery's Instagram. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that is a new sort of initiative that was started by our new director, Matt Starr. He's a lot more tech savvy than I am, and social media savvy. So he's been a really great addition to the team. And he's been reaching out to people who work in the art world or who work in fields adjacent to the art world that are really creative, like actors and fashion designers and magazine editors. And then also, artists we work with, artists we would love to work with, artists that we aren't working with, but we really respect their work and they've got different galleries representing them. But just to sort of have that conversation about, what's exciting, what's inspiring you, and kind of get to know these creative people in short, personal little videos.
Yeah, it's so amazing just to see, people like Mickey Boardman, who I think that's his last name, Mr. Mickey from Paper Magazine, and to see him sitting in his own home talking about art on your Instagram, like, that is so cool. It's a brilliant idea. So
Again, another genius idea. I wanted to ask you a little bit more about the types of artists that you work with, specifically going to look at kind of the big picture, the big vision for the program of your gallery. Can you tell me a little bit more about what your vision for the program of your gallery is?
Sure. I mean, to be fully honest, a little bit of that we're sort of figuring out as we go. Opening in the pandemic was a bit unexpected, and when the opportunity came up, we decided to jump in. But we didn't have a full slate of artists on a roster when we opened, so we've been kind of sort of figuring out what works for us as we've gone through the past 2 years. And I think for me, the most important thing is the working relationship. So we like a lot of variety in the artists we work with. I personally love change and variety in my life and schedule. So it's always great when there's kind of a brand new feeling when you walk into the gallery. And it's amazing how much different art can totally transform the space. So it's really great working with a whole bunch of different artists who work with different materials and have different sort of ideas and orientations to the world. But the most important thing is that we can work really collaboratively. It's sort of like a partnership, I think, between artist and gallery. And so the shows that feel the most successful to me are the ones where we've really connected with the artists. We really understand each other's goals, and we're able to kind of think through problems, think through challenges together, and come up with exciting ideas and concepts together, and put on interesting exhibitions.
Yeah, and they are really diverse and very interesting. That's so, yes, they are.
Yeah,
And
that's something I've worried about occasionally. Like, do we not have a clear identity as a gallery? But a lot of people come in and say, it's really exciting that every time we come in here, we have no idea what to expect. And so I've decided like we should just lean into that and really, when we get inspired to work with a particular artist, just jump in again with both
yeah,
feet, see how it goes.
yeah, that's so cool. So, Jenna, would you tell us a little bit about how do you generally find visual artists to show in your gallery? I mean, I'm sure there's so many different ways that you start to build these relationships, but how do you do it?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And it's one we get a lot. How do you meet your artists? How do you find your artists? And I don't have one good, clear answer for that. It happens really organically. So we go to things like open studios, we go to different events where artists will be there. And often we're introduced by artists we already know, or curators we know, or people we may have met once or twice in the art world. So it kind of is surprising how it's almost like the art you need at the right time just seems to find you. And so I'm, always open to meeting new artists and talking to them. But usually it's somebody we meet in person, and then we'll look up their work, and then we'll set up a studio visit if the work seems to align with what we're looking for. So that's sort of, it just happens really naturally.
Yeah, I love that. And that kind of solidifies my thought or my suspicion where I was like, well, there's probably so many different ways, but I love that it's very organic for you. And this isn't a question that I love to ask on my podcast. And I'm hoping that you have like a cool, innovative answer for me. But it's okay if I'm putting you on the spot here because it's kind of an unusual question. And the question is, what's the most unexpected or unusual way that you found an artist that you wanted to work with?
I think maybe the most unexpected way that I've met an artist was, it maybe doesn't seem that unexpected, but I was at a student show and I saw this one piece that really connected to my previous area of study. When I was studying in Canada, I studied religious diversity and multiculturalism in Canada. And I went to an exhibition and there was this really incredible piece, and it was a flag that looked like the American flag made out of hijabs that the artist had people around the country mail to her. And so I was fascinated with the concept of the piece. It was really beautiful the way it was constructed. And I just couldn't let it, like, it just wouldn't
leave your
leave
mind.
my mind. Exactly. And so I happened to know the curator, and I kept bugging him to introduce me to the artist, because at that time I thought we would write a paper together. That's what I was really interested in. And then we just kind of kept talking. And then during the pandemic, her master's thesis was canceled because of quarantine. So her thesis show wasn't able to be displayed the way it was meant to. And this was a new body of work by that time, but she and I started talking, and she ended up being the artist that we opened the space with. I found the space sort of looking for initially a pop-up space for her. And then due to that process, we ended up signing the lease for multiple years and deciding to really get into the whole thing.
Okay, that sounds very organic, very authentic, and so, so cool. And who is that artist?
Her name is Azza Sultan.
Oh, right. And I saw her exhibition, her second exhibition with your gallery, where she had a narrative kind of throughout the exhibition of mixed media paintings on the wall.
Yeah, exactly. It was a Malaysian folktale. No, a Malaysian folktale about that really kind of boiled down to the way Azza was talking about it, was this relationship between a young daughter and her mother, and the expectations that are put on women generally in society. So it was a really interesting story.
Yeah, I loved it. It was such a good one.
Thank you.
So yeah, good eye there, Jenna. And I have to say, I'm so, so grateful that you were also able to come and speak at the Artist Academy, which is my online group program that I've now done. You came to speak to the students there twice. You came to the last time, which was the 10th time I did the program, and the time before that, which was the 9th time I did the program. So I'm curious to know if you could tell us, what was it like meeting these artists?
It was great meeting these artists. It was really interesting to meet artists who clearly had sort of a rapport with each other and a rapport with you. So it was fun listening to them talk about their work, and knowing that there was a group of people sort of supporting them throughout that process, and hearing the different questions that they had. And it was really, really a great way to see work by artists I might not have otherwise met. And so it's a fun process. I really enjoyed it.
Hello, artists. I just want to interrupt our interview for just a moment to tell you a little bit about the Artist Academy. I am so proud to have taught this program now 10 times. It's sort of like the ultimate professional development course for visual artists of all levels. It's meant to teach you how to navigate the shifting landscape of the art world so that you can generate sales, have all the opportunity that you need, and the right opportunities to get in front of the right people so that you can achieve your goals in your career. And it's the ultimate program for you if you're ready to be done with the guesswork of how you can get to the next level. There have been artists who have done this program who have been in the art world for decades and have come out of this program finding it so, so helpful, and finally making the career choices that they need to make to get to where they need to go. And similarly, this program has worked so well for artists who are just starting out and don't want to just keep throwing whatever to the wall hoping that it sticks. They're really curious to know what the right steps are. So this is the program for that, and it sets you up in so many ways. It sets you up on how to speak about your work, how to communicate it online with your website and your social media, how to get in front of the right people, how to generate sales, and so much more. And I want to invite you today to join the waitlist for this program so that when the doors open, you'll be the first to know. And if you're on the waitlist, you get some special bonuses and a very special price. Now, like I said, it's the 11th time I'm doing this program, so it's no coincidence that it will start in the month of November, the 11th month of the year. And I am so delighted that so many artists have done this. I'm so, so proud of them. And you'll hear from some of them on a future podcast. But for now, tap the link in the show notes, learn a little bit more about this program, and if you're interested, if it seems like it's right for you, go ahead and join the waitlist. Thank you so much for listening, and here's Jenna again.
And I wanted to ask you too, if you could give any sort of advice to any of the artists listening, maybe they're feeling a little bit, I don't want to say lost, because I'm hoping nobody's feeling really, truly lost, but maybe they're feeling like they could get a little bit more direction on how to approach working with galleries, right? What is one golden nugget of advice that you could give them?
I think really approaching the relationship with a gallery like a partnership. So understanding that the gallery is there definitely to make your life easier and to provide certain services for artists, publicity, help with photos, hanging, like all of the logistics the gallery should be helping you with. Absolutely. But the more that you treat that like a partnership and the more sort of engagement that you have with the gallery, the better they're able to represent you and the better they're able to ensure that your vision is accurately understood in the press release, accurately being portrayed to visitors. And that really helps in terms of finding a collector base and bringing in people who are really excited about the work. So I think rather than thinking about it as sort of like this goal or this end result, it really it's a partnership and it's ongoing and it's just a new type of work.
Yeah, that's so insightful and so good to hear that it's about keeping the channels of communication open and approaching it almost without any hesitation when it comes to communicating.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, if whenever we hear from our artists, there's always something nice about that. It's nice to stay in touch. But then if we have used the wrong word in describing something, or if we've missed something and they catch that for us, that's great. We're a team that are all working to make sure that an artist is seen. So I think be really communicative, highlight issues if you see them, and also be willing to bring creative solutions and ideas to your gallerist, because I think two brains are better than one. So if you're really working together, something great can come out of that.
Yeah. And for those artists out there who are looking to get on the radar of galleries, what advice can you give them?
A couple of things, like definitely these days an online presence is important, as much as it can be frustrating to those of us who are not great with social media. But gallerists are looking at Instagram for sure. So having good examples of your work with close-ups and also maybe in situ, so we can see the size and way the works look in place, along with a website. And then the other thing would be to just go to where people are and have authentic, organic conversations, and hopefully, studio visits can come out of that, and genuine relationships can be built that can foster the possibility of, even if you don't meet your gallerist in those conversations, you might meet a curator or a collector or somebody that eventually will introduce you to that person, because it's always easier to kind of come with a recommendation than to sort of be trying to recommend yourself.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. So community is key.
Definitely.
Love that. Jenna, thank you so much for joining us today. And it's always a pleasure to see you, to see your shows. And can you just tell our listeners where we can find out more information about your gallery?
Absolutely. We have a website, trotterandsholer.com, and our Instagram is at Trotter and Sholer.
All right. I have been mispronouncing your gallery for months now then. Trotter and Sholer. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
those
gonna
are my grandmother's. They're my grandmother's maiden names.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah, I was gonna ask, where'd you get those?
I know people
Trotter.
always ask me, "Are you Trotter or Sholer?" And I'm like, some ways I'm both, I guess.
I love that. So good. Well, thanks to your grandmothers for that really cool name. All right. Well, Jenna, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll have that link in the show notes for our listeners. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Marina.
Thank you so much for listening. Support your community by sharing this podcast, leaving a review, and follow The Artist Advisory on Instagram at @the_artist_advisory, and visit us online at www.theartistadvisory.com.